Small household expenses rarely feel dangerous, one at a time. A new mop because the old handle cracked. A new chair because one rung loosened. A new curtain rod because the cheap bracket bent. Another pack of screws. Another bottle of cleaner. Another roll of paper towels. Another little plastic thing that promises to solve a problem the house already had an answer for. But by the end of the month, those small purchases can feel like a leak in the family budget. In the 1950s, many American families lived close enough to the edge to notice that leak. In 1954, in a small kitchen outside Evansville, Indiana, a mother kept a rag drawer. A father kept a shelf of saved hardware in the garage. And neither one thought a useful thing was finished just because its first job was over. A jar became storage. A worn shirt became cleaning cloth. A scrap of wood became a shim. A candle stub made a drawer slide. A leftover bit of paint protected a sill before weather found it.
They were not trying to be trendy. They were trying to make the paycheck last. Number 18 on this list helped families stop buying replacements for small missing parts. Number 9 turned old cloth into a quiet form of home maintenance. And number 1 may be the poor man household habit that still makes the most sense in any home where money should not disappear through 100 tiny holes. These were not miracle savings tricks. They were forgotten poor man household fixes from the 1950s, from a time when families stretched the budget by making useful things useful again. This is history, memory, and practical household wisdom. Gas, wiring, roofs, structural damage, fire, vehicles, serious plumbing, mold, asbestos, and anything unsafe belong with qualified professionals today. So here are 25 forgotten poor man household fixes from the 1950s that stretched the family budget. Number 25, the rag drawer. The rag drawer was one of the simplest budget tools in the house. It did not look like much. Old undershirts, worn towels, flour sack cloth, torn sheets, socks without partners, and soft cotton squares lived there until the next mess, polish, wipe, or small repair. In a 1950s home, clean rags saved money because they replaced constant waste. They wiped tools before rust started. They protected the kitchen table while something was repaired. They cleaned windowsills, polished drawer pulls, caught harmless drips while someone watched the source, and wrapped small parts so they did not scratch each other in a drawer. The old trick was sorting. Clean rags stayed clean. Dirty rags did not go back with them. Oily or chemical-soaked rags can be dangerous and need proper, safe handling. The careful households knew that not every rag belonged in the same pile.
The rag drawer still makes sense today because every house needs soft cloth at the exact moment no one wants to waste money on something disposable. It was not glamorous. It was readiness in cotton form. Number 24, the saved jar lid. A jar lid had a second life in almost every old home. It became a parts tray, a paint holder, a glue dish, a place for tiny screws, or a little saucer under something that might leave a mark on a shelf. In the garage, a lid kept washers from rolling away. In the kitchen, it could catch a drip under a small plant pot. In the basement, it held tacks while someone fixed a screen. The reason it stretched the budget was simple. It kept little things from getting lost. Lose one screw from an old hinge, and a 10-minute job becomes a trip to the store. Lose the washer that came from the exact old handle, and now the handle never sits quite right again. The jar lid was cheap memory.
It told the house, put the small things here until they go back where they belong. Modern homes buy organizers, trays, cups, and boxes for the same job. The old home made one from something that had already done its first job. That is poor man wisdom at its best. Number 23, the candle stub drawer fix. A candle burned down to a stub was not always thrown out. In many 1950s kitchens, that stub still had work left in it. A sticky wooden drawer could be pulled out, inspected, cleaned, and eased with a little wax along the runners. The point was not to cover everything. The point was to reduce friction where the wood was rubbing. Old drawers often ran on wood, not metal slides. Humidity, dust, swelling, and years of use could make them drag. A modern family might start thinking about new hardware.
A frugal family asked whether the drawer had actually failed or simply needed help moving. That candle stub turned a daily annoyance into a quick household correction. The deeper lesson is still useful. Before replacing a thing, look for the place where it is fighting itself. Sometimes a household object is not dead. It is just dry, dirty, tight, or ignored.
Number 22. The soap-on-screw habit. Old wood can punish impatience. A screw driven into hard, dry wood without care can fight the tool, strip the head, or split the piece being repaired. In 1950s garages, fathers often rubbed the screw threads over a bar of dry soap or a candle before driving them into ordinary small household work. This was for light jobs, cabinet knobs, small latches, drawer pulls, little shelves, or trim where the repair was simple and safe. Not structural work. Not doors that protect the house. Not anything load-bearing, exterior, or dangerous. The soap reduced friction and helped the screw go in cleaner. That stretched the budget because it helped preserve both the screw and the wood. A stripped screw creates another problem. A split piece of trim creates another purchase. A ruined drawer hole creates another repair. The old habit said, make the material cooperate before you force it. That is not cheapness. That is respect. Number 21. The coffee can hardware bank. A coffee can of hardware was a poor man's parts department. Inside were screws from old hinges, washers from broken fixtures, small brackets, hooks, knobs, bolts, nails, and odd little pieces saved because they still looked useful. The trick was not saving every piece of junk. The good household saved useful hardware. Clean screws. Straight nails. Solid washers. Hooks that were not bent out of shape. Brackets that still had strength. Anything rusted, stripped, cracked, unsafe, or mysterious in the wrong way did not belong in good work. That coffee can stretch the family budget because many repairs need one small part, not a shopping bag. A loose kitchen handle could be fixed after supper. A missing washer did not stop a weekend project. A small hook could become useful in the basement. A saved screw could hold a shelf until the next generation forgot where it came from. Today, buying new is often easier than searching. The old coffee can made searching worth it. Number 20. The folded card shim. A rocking table can make a whole meal feel poorer. In older homes, floors were not always perfectly even. Furniture moved from room to room. A small cabinet, table, stool, or shelf could wobble for reasons that had nothing to do with failure. A folded card, a thin scrap of wood, a bit of cork, or a small piece cut from packaging could steady the object. This was not a fix for broken furniture, weak legs, soft floors, or anything unsafe. It was a household answer for ordinary unevenness. The folded card shim stretched the budget because it kept a useful object in service. It also stopped annoyance from becoming resentment. A family that eats every night at a rocking table eventually starts wanting a new table, even if the old one is still good. The shim said fixed the contact before replacing the thing. It was small. But old household economy was built from small answers used at the right time. Number 19. The cardboard pattern. Cardboard saved good material from bad guesses. Before cutting fabric, screen, felt, shelf liner, backing board, or a small odd-shaped patch, frugal households often made a pattern from a cereal box, shoe box, or piece of packaging. The cardboard could be trimmed, bent, tested, and corrected without wasting the real material. This stretched the budget because the first guess is often wrong. A curve around a pipe. A corner inside a drawer. A patch for a torn screen. A piece of felt for a chair foot. A backing for an old frame. If the first cut was made from the good material, one mistake could ruin the whole piece. The cardboard pattern gave the family permission to be wrong where being wrong was free. That is a powerful household habit. It turns patience into savings. Modern products often promise perfect fit. Old homes rarely offer perfect shapes. Cardboard helped bridge the gap between the two. Number 18. The labeled screw envelope. Some old repairs took more than one day. A drawer pull came off before supper. A screen door hinge needed attention, but rain interrupted the job. A small shelf had to be taken down until the wall could be touched up. Old-timers used envelopes, folded paper, jars, or little tins to keep the exact screws with the exact object. The label mattered. Pantry hinge. Back bedroom shade bracket. Hall shelf screws. Chair corner brace. This stretched the budget because old hardware often fit better than whatever could be bought later. The screw length was right. The head matched. The washer belonged. The little bracket had already proven itself. When parts get mixed together, money leaks out. Something gets lost, something gets guessed, and suddenly an old object is fitted with the wrong hardware. The labeled envelope was a tiny act of discipline. It said, "Future me should not have to pay for present me being careless." Pause the count for a moment. Look at these first 8 fixes. Rags, lids, candle stubs, soap, coffee cans, shims, cardboard patterns, labeled envelopes. None of them sound impressive enough to sell in a catalog. That is exactly why they mattered. They stopped the budget from bleeding through the smallest openings. A lost screw. A sticky drawer. A wobbly table. A bad cut. A missing washer. A one-use cloth thrown away too soon. The 1950s per-man household was not built on one genius trick. It was built on hundreds of small refusals to waste. The next fixes moved deeper into floors, furniture, cleaning, paint, storage, and the everyday repairs that kept a house feeling cared for even when money was tight. Number 17. The floor saver scrap. Hardwood floors cost too much to treat carelessly. A 1950s family might use felt from an old hat, leather from a worn belt, cork, folded cloth, or thick fabric under chair legs and table feet. The goal was simple: stop the daily scrape before it became visible damage. This fix stretched the budget because floors are damaged by repetition. The same chair pushed back after every meal. The same table leg dragged during cleaning. The same grit trapped under a foot. One scrape does not ruin a floor. 1,000 small scrapes make a family start covering the damage with rugs they did not plan to buy. The floor saver scrap was prevention. The furniture was not broken. The floor was not ruined. That was exactly the moment to act. This still makes sense today. Protect surfaces before they ask for restoration. Per-man wisdom often looked ahead. It fixed tomorrow's expense while it was still free. Number 16. The chair rung reset. A loose chair did not automatically go to the curb. Old families tested it. Was the rung loose but intact? Was the chair still square? Was the joint clean enough to be repaired? Could it be glued and clamped safely, Or was the chair too damaged to trust? For ordinary wooden chairs, a careful repair could sometimes give years of additional service. Glue, pressure, patience, and time mattered more than speed. This was not a fix for unsafe furniture. A cracked leg, broken seat, or unstable chair should not be trusted just because it has memories attached. But many chairs were discarded in later years for looseness that earlier families would have addressed. The budget lesson is clear. A thing that wiggles today may break tomorrow if ignored. The old habit was to catch looseness before it became failure. That worked for chairs, cabinets, handles, doors, and half the small objects in a house. Number 15. The saved paint jar. Paint protected more than pride. A little leftover paint in a label jar could save a sill, shelf, porch rail, cabinet edge, or chair before bare wood took damage. In frugal homes, people did not wait for a whole room to look tired before touching up the one place that needed it. The trick was labeling. Kitchen trim. Back porch. Hall shelf. White chair. Without a label, leftover paint becomes mystery. With a label, it becomes future maintenance. This stretched the budget because small exposed places become bigger problems. A chipped windowsill can take moisture. A scuffed shelf can start looking neglected. A porch rail with bare spots can weather faster. Old families knew a house gets expensive when little wounds are ignored. Paint storage must be safe, and old paint eventually needs proper disposal. But the habit still makes sense. Keep enough memory of the house to care for it later. Number 14. The newspaper glass routine. Clean glass can make a poor room feel less poor. In many 1950s homes, crumpled newspaper and a simple household cleaning mix were used on ordinary windows. The point was not luxury. The point was light. Daylight made a kitchen feel warmer. It made a front room feel cared for. It made winter less gray. A clean window could change the mood of a house without buying a single decoration. Today, window materials, coatings, and newspaper ink may differ, so care and common sense matter. But the budget principle remains. Use simple methods that do the job without waste. The newspaper glass routine stretched the budget because it avoided disposable cloths, fancy products, and neglect. It also showed that home care was not only about fixing broken things. Sometimes it was about making what you already had feel alive again. A clean window did not add money to the house. It added dignity. Number 13. The baking soda gentle scrub. Baking soda was a quiet worker in many old kitchens. For certain ordinary surfaces, mixed with a little water, it could become a gentle scrub for sinks, basins, and stubborn spots. It was mild enough to start with, familiar enough to trust, and cheap enough to use without regret. The secret was sequence. Frugal families often began gently before reaching for something stronger. A rag before a scraper. Baking soda before harsh cleaner. Patience before force. That stretched the budget because aggressive cleaning can damage surfaces. A scratched sink, dulled finish, or stained material creates another problem. Not every surface should be scrubbed, and modern finishes can be delicate. Always know the material before using anything abrasive. But the old principle still works. Start with the mild, honest answer. Many household problems get worse because someone used a strong answer before understanding the surface. Number 12. The vinegar surface wipe. Vinegar was another ordinary bottle with many household memories attached. For some mineral film, stale smells in empty jars, or simple surface cleaning, vinegar could help. It was cheap, familiar, and already in the kitchen. But old wisdom included limits. Vinegar is not for every surface. It should never be mixed with bleach or other cleaners. It can damage stone, finishes, and materials that do not like acid. It is not a plumbing repair, mold cure, or miracle solution. Used with judgment, though, it stretched the budget because it reduced the number of products a family needed for minor surface jobs. The real fix was not the vinegar. The real fix was knowing what kind of problem you were looking at. Mineral film is not grease. Grease is not rust. Rust is not rot. Rot is not dirt. Old households saved money because they separated problems before treating them. Number 11. The string and cloth clamp. Not every small repair needed a metal clamp. For light household objects, old-timers sometimes used string, cloth strips, or twine to hold pieces in place while glue dried. A loose picture frame corner. A small box. A simple chair part that was safe to repair. A decorative piece that needed steady pressure. The cloth protected the surface. The string supplied tension. This was not for heavy, structural, or safety-related repairs. It was a small job habit for small job objects. It stretched the budget because it let families repair things without owning every specialty tool. The deeper idea is still useful. Pressure matters while a repair cures. A rush glue job often fails because the pieces wander. A patient household found ways to keep them still. Sometimes the old home did not have the proper tool, but it had enough imagination to make a temporary helper. That imagination saved money. Number 10. The boot tray by the door. The cheapest floor repair is keeping damage outside. In 1950s homes, a boot tray, old pan, mat, scraper, or towel by the door could save floors from mud, grit, rainwater, and winter salt. It was not fancy. It was defense at the threshold. This stretched the budget because floors and rugs wear from repetition. Every bit of grit is tiny sandpaper. Every wet boot brings moisture where it does not belong. Every muddy step creates cleaning, staining, and wear. A poor man household did not wait until the floor looked damaged. It stopped the damage at the door. That still makes sense today. The threshold is where the outside tries to enter the family's money. Stop it there, and the house stays cleaner, floors last longer, and fewer things need replacing before their time. Number 9. The old towel duty system. An old towel did not retire all at once. It changed jobs. First it dried hands. Then it became a utility towel. Then a floor towel near the back door. Then a garage rag. Then maybe strips for padding, wrapping, or cleaning. Families that stretched money often had towel ranks, even if nobody called them that. The good towels stayed in the bathroom. The worn towels moved to the kitchen or mudroom. The rough ones went to the basement, garage, or car trunk. This stretched the budget because it prevented good things from being ruined by dirty jobs and kept worn things useful after they were no longer presentable. The old towel duty system also prevented a common household mistake: grabbing the nearest good towel for paint, mud, oil, or cleaning and running it in one careless minute. Per man wisdom was assignment. Give every worn thing a lower job before giving it no job. Stop again and look at the pattern. This middle group is about extending usefulness. Floors protected before damage. Chairs tightened before failure. Paint saved for future touch-ups. Windows cleaned for light. Gentle cleaners used before harsh ones. String and cloth used as temporary helpers. Door mats and old towels given specific jobs. None of this asks the family to live badly. It asks the family to live attentively. That is the difference people often miss. Frugality at its best was not about accepting ugliness. It was about preventing waste, preserving dignity, and making ordinary things serve fully before buying replacements. The next fixes move into storage, smell, moisture, tools, and the quiet record-keeping that kept small household problems from returning again and again. Number 8. The basement shelf lift. A basement floor is not kind to everything placed on it. Old households learned to keep useful materials off the floor. Boards, cardboard boxes, jars of hardware, paint supplies, cloth, and tools lasted longer on shelves, blocks, hooks, or boards than sitting directly on damp concrete or old stone. This stretched the budget because saved things are only useful if they survive storage. A board that warps in a damp corner is no longer a saved board. A cardboard box that softens on the floor is not storage. A tool that rusts under a wet rag becomes another expense. Basements can involve serious moisture, mold, pests, wiring, and structural concerns, so problems deserve proper attention. But this simple storage habit still makes sense. Keep useful things visible, dry, and off the floor whenever possible. Per man households did not only save, they protected what they saved. Number 7. The charcoal or baking soda odor jar. Old homes held smells. A pantry, icebox, cabinet, trunk, or closet could develop stale air that made everything inside feel older than it was. Families often used simple odor absorbers like baking soda or charcoal in a small open container, depending on the place and the problem. This was not a cure for mold, leaks, pests, spoiled food, or anything unsafe. It was for ordinary stale smells after the real source had been removed. That distinction matters. The old fix stretched the budget because it helped usable spaces feel clean without buying sprays and perfumes that only covered the problem. A cabinet that smelled fresh could store linens. A trunk could hold blankets. A pantry could feel decent again. But old-timers knew a smell could be a warning. If the odor came back, they looked deeper. A poor man fix is only wise when it does not hide a real problem. Number 6. The tool wipe before storage. Tools last longer when they are not put away wearing the job. Old fathers wiped sawdust, dirt, moisture, and grime from tools before returning them to the shelf or box. A rag near the bench made this easy. The tool worked, got inspected, got wiped, and went home. This stretched the budget because dirt ages tools. Moisture invites rust. Grit scratches surfaces. Paint hardens. Glue crusts. Soil clings to garden tools. A tool neglected after use may be half ruined by the next time it is needed. The wipe before storage was a tiny ritual of respect. It also made the next job better. A clean tool is easier to trust. A tool put back where it belongs saves time. A tool inspected after use reveals cracks, looseness, or wear before danger appears. The old garage did not always look tidy. But the good ones had habits that kept tools ready. Readiness is cheaper than replacement. Number 5. The kitchen grease can. In many old kitchens, cooking grease was saved. Sometimes it was used for cooking, sometimes for seasoning cast iron, sometimes for small household lubrication in places where it made sense historically. But this is one old habit that needs careful modern judgment. Grease can go rancid. It can attract pests. It can create mess. It does not belong on every material, near heat risks, or in places where modern products are safer and cleaner. So why include it? Because the old grease can teach us a broader budget lesson. Families once looked at byproducts and asked whether they still had a use. Bacon grease, jars, fabric, string, ashes, boxes, and boards all passed through that question. The specific uses may change today. The habit remains valuable. Before throwing something away, ask whether it has a safe, clean, sensible second use. The words safe, clean, and sensible matter. Without them, thrift becomes trouble. Number 4. The repair note. A small note can save a surprising amount of money. Old households wrote things down on calendars, envelopes, jar labels, cabinet doors, or workshop scraps. Back door sticks after rain. Hallway paint is ivory. Pantry hinge uses short screws. Basement corner damp after east wind. Chair rung glued in May. This stretched the budget because repeated problems tell the truth. If the same door sticks every wet week, it is not random. If the same corner gets damp every storm, it is a pattern. If the same chair loosens twice, the repair needs a better answer. Modern families often restart the thinking every time a problem comes back. Old household notes carried memory forward. A note is not a repair, but it prevents foolish repairs. It keeps a family from buying the wrong thing twice, patching the same symptom repeatedly, or forgetting what worked last time. The poor man household could not afford to forget expensive lessons. Writing them down made sense. Before the top 3, remember what these fixes are really about. They are not about worshipping poverty. Poverty is hard. Tight money is hard. A family should not have to patch, save, and stretch because the world leaves them no choice. But the competence built inside those homes is worth keeping. The rag drawer, the screw can, the save jar lid, the candle stub, the shim, the cardboard pattern, the old towel system, the basement shelf, the tool wipe, the repair note, they all point to the same belief. Useful things deserve attention before they are dismissed. That belief gave families a little more room. Not riches. Room. Room to get through the week. Room to avoid one more purchase. Room to keep the house feeling cared for even when the budget was thin. The final 3 fixes are the habits underneath all the others. Number 3. The Fix It Before Payday list. In many 1950s homes, payday had a shadow. The week before it, families looked harder at what could be fixed without spending. A loose handle. A torn screen. A scuffed shelf. A missing hook. A dull knife. A wobbly chair. A window that needed a draft stopper until proper repair could be planned. The Fix It Before Payday list was not always written. Sometimes it was just a Saturday morning mood. What can we put right with what we already have? This stretched the budget because it separated needs from impulses. Some purchases were necessary. Some were only the result of annoyance, fatigue, or not knowing what was in the drawer. The old list gave the house one chance before the store got involved. That still makes sense today. Not because families should avoid buying what they need, but because many homes own more answers than they remember. Number 2. The Good Enough Honesty Rule. Per man fixes were not always pretty. A patch might show. A shim might be visible if you looked closely. A chair repair might carry a line. A jar label might be written in pencil. A screen patch might not disappear. But old families understood good enough honesty. The fix should work. It should be safe. It should not hide danger. It should not pretend a serious problem is solved. It should not make the next repair harder. If it met those tests, it did not have to impress a stranger. This rule stretched the budget because perfection is expensive when service would do. Many objects are thrown away because they no longer look new, even though they still work. The old household asked a better question. Does it serve? That question kept many useful things alive. It also gave a home character. Not neglect. Character earned through honest repair. Number 1. The one more use habit. The most important per man household fix from the 1950s was not wax, soap, rags, cardboard, jars, string, paint, towels, or coffee cans. It was the habit underneath them. One more use. Before something left the house, someone asked whether it had one more clean, safe, sensible use. Could the shirt become a rag? Could the jar hold screws? Could the scrap wood become a shim? Could the candle stub ease a drawer? Could the cardboard protect the good material from a bad cut? Could the old towel move to the back door before it became trash? That habit stretched the family budget because it slowed down the path from useful to discarded. Modern life made that path very short. Buy, use, dislike, replace, forget. The old home took a longer road. Use, maintain, repair, repurpose, store, label, pass down, then finally let go when the thing had truly finished serving. That road made ordinary people more capable. Think back to that small kitchen outside Evansville in 1954. The rag drawer under the counter. The screw can in the garage. The jar lid saved for small parts. The old towels ranked by duty. The paint jar labeled for the back porch. The cardboard pattern cut before the real material. The chair tightened before it broke. No one called it a system. It was just how the house survived payday to payday. But that system carried a kind of dignity that is easy to lose. It said a family was not helpless because money was tight. It said useful things deserved to be understood. It said waste was not a sign of wealth. Sometimes it was only a sign that people had forgotten how much service was still left in ordinary objects. That is the old value worth remembering. Attention, patience, care. The willingness to ask whether something can serve one more time before it disappears. If this reminded you of a father, mother, grandmother, grandfather, neighbor, old kitchen drawer, garage shelf, rag bag, or coffee can full of screws, tell us what your family saved, stretched, fixed, or used one more time. Because sometimes the poorest looking fix in the house was the one that kept the family richest in common sense.